Seneca to Paulinus, on the transience of life. Chapter 9. Is there anyone in the world more foolish than people who boast of their wise foresight? They are perpetually busy and preoccupied beyond measure. Howbeit, at the expense of their lives, they arrange their lives to be better. They make far-reaching plans, and to put things off is the worst way to squander life. Every coming day is taken from you. You give up the present in exchange for the promise of the future. Waiting is the main hindrance of life. It is eternally dependent on tomorrow and ruins today. You try to dispose of what is still in fortune's hands, letting go of what was in your own. Where are you looking? Where are you stretching your hands? The future is unknown. Live now. Here is the saving prophecy uttered by the greatest of poets, as if by the suggestion of divine lips. In the life of unhappy mortals, the fastest day flies by. The best day. What are you standing there for? He says to you, why do you hesitate? Grab them, or they'll run away. But they will run away even if you grab them, which is why the transience of time must be fought with the rapidity of its use, hurrying to get as much out of it as possible, like a spring stream that rushes in and runs out just as quickly. And what a splendid expression, censuring our eternal slowness. He speaks not of the best season of life, but of the best day of it. And you, disregarding the irreversible run of time, carelessly and unhurriedly build up before you a long series of months and years, as if their number depends only on your greed. Listen, they tell you that a day is a day you can't keep. How can one doubt that the first best day runs away from the unhappy, that is, the eternally busy mortal? Old age suddenly comes upon their still childish souls with all its weight, and they are not prepared for it. They are helpless and unarmed. They have not foreseen anything in advance and are surprised to find that they have suddenly grown old. After all, they did not notice the daily approach to the end. Thus, conversation, reading, or strenuous reflection deceive the traveler, and he finds himself in a place without having noticed how he arrived. The same thing happens in our constant and rapid journey through life, which we make in reality and in dreams at the same speed. Busy people notice it only when they stop at the goal. Chapter X. I could, if I wished, justify my position by all the rules, dividing it into parts and proving each one. I can think of many arguments to prove that the shortest lives are those of busy people. But as Fabian used to say, to fight the passions one must exert one's strength rather than find subtle arguments, and he was a true philosopher of the old school, not of the present pulpit talkers. He said that only a frontal attack can crush the structure of our passions, and not light wounds from verbal arrows launched from afar. He did not approve of the intricacies of words. Passions must be exterminated, not tickled. But for men to see and condemn their own delusions, they must still be taught and not merely lamented. Life is divided into 3 times: past, present, and future. Of these, the time in which we live is brief. That which we are to live is indefinite. That which is to be lived is sure and certain. For fortune has already forfeited its rights to it, and no one's arbitrary will can change it. Busy people are deprived of this time. They have no time to look back on the past, and even if they did, they would not do so. It is unpleasant to remember what they have to repent of. So, they do not want to mentally return to the badly lived years. They do not dare to look at their former vices, because at one time they brightened up, like a cunning procurer, and as if to justify the proximity of the desired pleasure, and at a distance they are seen as it is, without embellishments. No man would condemn himself voluntarily to the torments of reminiscence, except he who has subjected all his actions to his own censorship, which is never wrong. He who has acted with ambitious ambition, arrogant contempt, unbridled lust for power, guile and deceit, avaricious avarice, or passion for waste, cannot but fear his own memory. But the past is a sacred and inviolable part of our life, beyond the vicissitudes of human existence, wrested from the realm of fortune. It can no longer be disturbed by need, fear, or sudden attacks of illness. It can neither be disturbed nor taken away. It is our only lifelong possession to be feared. In the present, we always have only one day, and not even a day, but its individual moments. But the days that have passed are all yours. They will appear at the first command, and will stand patiently still, lasting as long as it pleases you to consider them. Busy people, however, have no time to do this. A calm and carefree soul is free to go to any period of its life and walk wherever it pleases. The souls of busy people, like oxen harnessed to a yoke, can neither turn around nor look back. That is why their life is like falling into an abyss. No matter how much you pour into a barrel, if there is no bottom in it, it will be of no use. Nothing will remain in it. So it is for them. No matter how much time is given, it will be of no use, for it has nothing to hold on to. It falls through their disheveled, holy souls without holding on. Present time is the briefest moment, so brief that some do not recognize its existence at all. It is always flowing, moving forward at a dizzying speed. It passes before it has time to come, and it is as unstoppable as the world and its luminaries, which know no rest in their circling and never stay in one place. For busy people, then, there is only the present moment, brief as it is elusive. But even this is taken away from them, who are always busy with many things at once. Chapter Davos. How short a time they live, do you not believe it? Look for yourself, how eagerly they all long to live long. The decrepit old men try to beg for a few more years at any cost, and go to all sorts of lengths to make themselves look younger. Moreover, they succeed in deceiving themselves, and they are so persistent in suggesting to themselves a pleasant lie, as if they hoped to spend their death at the same time. And when illness or weakness finally reminds them of their mortality, with what fear they die, as if they were not leaving life, but someone forcibly tears them out of it. They weep, lamenting what fools they were not to have lived earlier. They vow, if only they can get out of this illness, to devote the rest of their lives to leisure. And for the first time, the thought occurs to them that all their labors have been in vain, that during their whole life they have only accumulated unnecessary goods, which they will never have time to use. But those whose life is spent away from cares have a truly long life. It is not placed at the disposal of others. It is not thrown to one thing or another. It is not given to fortune. It is not lost through negligence. It is not squandered through immoderate generosity. It is not wasted. All of it, if I may so speak, is placed where it will bring a reliable income. Therefore, no matter how short it may be, it is enough. That is why a wise man always walks without delay towards death with a firm step whenever his last hour arrives. Chapter 12. You may ask, whom do I call busy people? Not only those whom you can only drive out of the basilica by sicking dogs on them, not only those whom you are perpetually seeing in a crush, whether in a place of honor surrounded by your own retinue, or in a less honorable one among strangers. Not only those who are driven out of their own homes by the duties of knocking at other people's doors, or those who are pursued by the praetor's lance for dishonorable secret profiteering, for such matters, sooner or later, always come out like a burst pustule. No, there are people who remain busy even in their leisure, in complete seclusion in their villa or on their bed, removed from people and cares. They continue to be a burden to themselves. Their leisure is more properly called not a carefree life, but a busy idleness. Can one be called carefree who endlessly rearranges the Corinthian vases, which by the efforts of a few madmen are known to be precious, and shudders at the thought that he might make the slightest mistake in their arrangement? Is it leisure to rummage all day long through piles of greenish copper pots? Or sticking around the ring as a fan, keeping an eye on the struggling boys? What a real shame on our heads. Our vices are no longer Roman. or to distribute his incense-soaked cohorts according to age and suit, or patronize the most fashionable athletes? Can one call it leisure to spend endless hours at the barber's when everything that has grown overnight is plucked, when long deliberations are held about every hair, when a hair that has fallen apart is restored, or, for want of it, the hair that is still there is carefully combed over the forehead? How terrible is their anger at the slightest carelessness of the barber if he should forget and imagine that he was cutting a man's hair. How quickly they are incandescent with rage if an extra strand of their hair is cut off, if not all the rings fall as they should, if even a hair is out of its proper curl. If you offer any of them a choice between the destruction of their state or their hair, they will not hesitate to choose the former. Is there one among them who would value the health of his own head more than its decoration? Is there one who would prefer honor to attire? Would you call the life of these busy men torn between the comb and the mirror leisure? And then there are those who work tirelessly at composing, listening, learning songs. The voice, which nature has commanded to come out of the throat in the straightest and simplest way to sound best, they twist with the most incredible but equally untalented modulations. Their fingers are always drumming, beating out the rhythm of a mentally repeated melody. And even when they are absorbed in a serious and often sad business, you can hear them purring to themselves some tune. Is there any leisure for such a one? No. It is rather a perpetually busy idleness. But what cannot be called free time is, by Hercules, their feasts. Look how anxious their faces are when they check in what order the silver is placed on the table. How much attention and patience is required to gird up the boy's lovers so that the tunic, God forbid, was not longer than necessary. What a terrible tension, what anguish of uncertainty. How will the cook's wild boar? With what speed the beardless servants fly in at a given sign. With what matchless skill the poultry is cut into pieces so that the portions are not too large. With what care the poor little boys instantly wipe up the vomit of drunken guests. Indeed, all this is arranged only for the sake of making themselves known as refined and generous. They are so slaves to vanity in all their vital activities that they no longer eat or drink except for show. Do not think of those who do not take a step without a porter or stretcher, who keep the hours of their daily walks as if it were a sacrilege to break them, who only know from others when to wash, when to swim, when to dine, whose pampered souls are so weakened and withered that they cannot know for themselves whether they are hungry or not. It is said that one of these sissies, I do not know, however, whether there is much tenderness in weaning oneself from the simplest habits of human life, when he was carried in his arms out of the bath and seated in a chair, asked, "Am I sitting down yet?" But if he does not know whether he is sitting, how can he know whether he is alive, whether he sees anything, and whether he enjoys leisure or is burdened with cares? I even find it difficult to say in which case I sympathize with him more, if he really didn't know or if he pretended not to know.